You and I are listening to another episode of Renegade Podcast, and I'm interviewing one and only Macabre storyteller. He is a video essayist, talks about movies, TV, video games, everything in between. He has over 100K subscribers. I wanted to interview him before, but, certain things got in the way. Now I have the opportunity to interview him. And this thing's going to start in 3, 2, 1. Hello! Hello.
There we go.
How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. My first question is, I want to start off with your channel. Well, what was the inspiration behind your channel name and logo?
Well, so the name was, when I first started the channel, I kind of wanted to do some, I think the original idea around the channel was that I was going to exclusively talk about things that, were bad, like bad movies and shit.
Yeah.
Luckily, I kind of am glad I didn't go that direction. I talk about stuff that isn't, not good, but also stuff that is good, just so it has some variety. But, so yeah, I wanted to have something where it was about kind of that was the original inspiration of bad storytelling.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to call my channel Bad Storytelling. So then I found, Macabre, which is, so the term really means more it doesn't necessarily mean it means more having to do with death, deathly, grim, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that came from. Although it took me maybe 2 or 3 years into the channel to realize that I was not pronouncing it right.
Yeah.
I had always pronounced it Macabre storytelling, and I think the R and E are silent, so it's Macabre storytelling.
Yeah.
And then from that came Mac, which is kind of what I go by. So.
Okay. Interesting. So I want to talk about your latest video, your Boy Scout video, right? I find that to be an interesting change of pace, right? You're kind of getting a little political, right? And was that something that was sort of kind of bottled up, or was that something you always wanted to do, that type of video, for a while?
Yeah, so that's a great way to put it, bottled up, so most of my channel has been almost exclusively media analysis. However, this is 3 years ago?
Yeah.
One of my highest rated, I actually think it is my most viewed video. I woke up, and I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember when Kumail Nanjiani got super jacked?
Yes.
For Eternals?
Yes.
Okay. So, as someone, I have history sort of in the bodybuilding power, I never competed or anything, but there was a 5-year period there where I was just eating chicken and rice and just working out every day.
Yeah.
That's kind of and I was watching all the YouTube channels,
yeah.
Right? And so I kind of am well versed in sort of discourse around, steroid use with online bodybuilders and in the movie industry and whatnot.
Yeah.
So when I woke up and I saw that his picture that he posted, clearly he took something. He was on some sort of steroids. And I forget what exactly it was. I think there was just a bunch of discourse on Twitter about it, and a lot of people were talking about it, and not to because I'm not well versed on other things, but it was just frustrating seeing a lot of people talking about stuff they clearly didn't really understand.
Yeah.
And so to what, like you said, it was kind of bottled up, and I said fuck it, and I go on and I make this male body video. And just kind of to get it off my chest. I'm I just need to talk about this. And sure enough, it ends up becoming my highest, it's got 2.5 million views now.
Yeah.
It's my highest rated video.
Yeah.
And from there, after seeing the response to that, in between media analysis, I also did my male dating video.
Yeah.
Which also came from my experience of getting into the pickup artist and red pill spaces, which have only become, it's a monster now, obviously. Back then, it was bad enough when the early mid 2010s pickup artist stuff, but now it's just it's a monster. But and so then I made that video about, and so basically they kind of revolve around this idea that when it comes to sort of men's issues affecting young men and boys, that's something that I personally am very sympathetic and empathetic to.
Yeah.
And yet it seems like both sides of the aisle aren't really good at doing that. It's either one extreme or the other.
Yeah.
Either like, talking about like toxic masculinity and like boys are like in trouble, how do we help them? But they never actually like give you young men advice. Or that's the other thing too, is I think one of the issues, while I would consider myself someone who's more on the left,
yeah,
sometimes it's like a lot of rhetoric towards young men from the left. It's not that it's unempathetic, it's that they're not really talking to men. They're kind of talking about men.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like almost like it's almost like imagine like two parents talking about their kid, concerned about their child. It's like, oh, you're concerned, but you're not really talking to the person maybe you should be talking to.
Yeah.
Whereas on the more right-wing side, we have a lot of like, the red pill accounts and whatnot, which are talking to young men, but they're giving them absolutely dog shit advice. Like terrible, awful, just instilling them with rage and anger at women, and all women are whores, and they just want chads, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So that is sort of where I kind of wanted to come in and be like, look, there's got to be a middle ground here.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you, but I also don't want you to fall into these bad rabbit holes.
Yeah.
So yeah, every now and then I'll kind of get this, like you said, there'll be something bottled up, and it'll come out of me. And the Boy Scouts video was, I had been on a panel, I mentioned this in the video, about almost a year ago now. I was on a panel with WIC TV, and we were talking about male spaces. And in preparation for that, I looked into this issue, because the Boy Scouts is the big, whenever people talk about the, male spaces going away, they bring up the Boy Scouts. And I was amazed to see that so much of the narrative was complete bullshit. It's like, oh, well, feminists, took over the Boy Scouts and they destroyed it. And then after you look into it, you're like, well, that's not really what happened. It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And then, again, there's such a perfect phrase, bottled up. I think I had bottled that up for 10 months, and then I was online, and I saw someone repeat something about the Boy Scouts that was incorrect. Like, oh, yeah, they forced them to let girls in. And I was like, that's it. And I just, dropped whatever I was doing and made that video.
Okay.
Because I was so just, we have to stop this, guys.
Yeah.
It's been 5 years and people are still repeating all this misinformation. So, but yeah, it really isn't. Most of my channel is media analysis, but like you said, whenever something bottles up in me about pertaining to male issues, about young men and boys, then a video like that will come out.
Wow, that's a great answer. It actually kind of segues off to my next question, is that you mentioned that the bodybuilding video went, again, super viral, over 2 million views and over 10,000 comments, right? When your videos go viral, like that one, or the Last of Us ones, or Euphoria, do you expect those videos to blow up, or do you just it's kind of like you're sort of throwing darts at a board type of thing?
It's so funny. It's always, I think I've kind of gotten into, I sort of reached a point where, granted, I've been at this for 5 or 6 years. I've gotten to a point where I sort of realize what my audience is looking for, or rather what, not necessarily my audience, but what does well. I've basically right now have been focusing on long form content, a 1.5 to 2.5 hour videos on a particular TV show, which, I think a lot of people didn't think that there was a market for long form videos. Yeah. But up around 5 years ago, when I was getting into it, that's what I started to see. It's like, oh wow, no, people love these huge retrospectives. Yeah. So I kind of am a little bit keen on, I'm doing a video on House of Cards right now, because I was surprised to see there wasn't a lot of content on House of Cards here on YouTube. Yeah. There's not that much analysis. Yeah. So I expect that one to do pretty well. However, there are some times when I am just flabbergasted. Yeah. With that male body video, I'm just going to throw this up, and get it off my chest, and maybe it'll do. And it was like slowly climbing. I think it got to like 10,000, and I was like, oh, cool, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then I woke up one morning. I was on my way to work, and I checked like my YouTube studio, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was like, and it exploded.
Yeah.
Sometimes like my Better Call Saul one, I think just hit 1 million views after a few years. But that was when I was like, okay, this is the show people like. It's a long form video.
Yeah.
I think people will, this will do pretty well. So in some cases, there are ones where I'm pretty confident it'll perform decently well. The Euphoria video I did also is doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But then there are other ones where I'm just, what? Why is this one? The male body video is really the one that kind of like knocked me on my ass. I was like, oh wow, I did not expect that to do that well.
Okay, interesting. So it's interesting you mentioned sort of again, how it sort of feels like nobody really has a solution to some of these sort of issues that are pertaining to men and young men and what's their purpose and masculinity and all that stuff, right? I always feel like sort of the conversation is sort of muddled, and the reason why it's so muddled is because of a few bad actors. And one of them I'm going to mention, granted, it feels like he's been muddling everything for the last couple of years. You must know the Critical Drinkler, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the reason why I mentioned him is that recently, I don't know, not even recently, the last couple of years, he always comes out with a video talking about how, things back in the day were so great and yada, yada, yada. And sure, those people have always existed and will always continue to exist. But the way he does it just feels insidious. Like he's selling something that I think he knows is toxic, but he has to, again, put meat on the plate. So he has to do it. It's just like, there's other ways of, again, tackling that issue without sounding, you sort of speaking out of your what, right? And I feel like that's how I feel about a lot of these sort of content from these people. I mentioned someone else. Granted, this person doesn't even talk about men's issues like that, but Jesterbell. You heard of Jesterbell?
Yeah, no, I did not know that.
Okay, so Jesterbell, again, is another sort of grifter. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of her videos, you could debunk those videos in 5-10 minutes. It's actually crazy, right? She's literally spewing hate for no real reason. She's just doing it for the love of the game. And it's just like, why? Right? And it's like, you can clearly tell it's kind of taking a toll because it's just like, if you're constantly making negative content, right, and you're not providing, a solution, or you're not providing a alternative, like a genuine alternative, that is going to again weigh heavily on your conscience. Like how do you combat that? How do you sort of not fall into that sort of trap of making negative content just to make negative content?
Well, yeah. So I'm not familiar with that. Is it Jesterbell? You said?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into them. I am somewhat familiar with Drinker. I don't really watch his stuff. However, just because it seems more focused on a lot of mainstream, like Disney, like Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
I watch that occasionally. But one thing I've tried to do with the channel, because when I originally started out, one of my biggest first series that kind of came up was the Game of Thrones rewrite series.
Yeah.
However, and I was really proud of that. It was a lot of fun. I still have yet to finish the final episode. But what I kind of got a little bit nervous about that towards the end was that because that was such a big part of my channel, and my first video I ever did was the Tyrion video, about talking about why the Taisha confession in Game of Thrones removing it from Game of Thrones kind of hurt his character arc. I didn't want to be a Game of Thrones channel guy.
Yeah.
One thing that the difficulty of kind of coming up on YouTube is that whether you want to or not, you will end up being pigeonholed by your audience. And it's not not to do. I don't mean to say that like they're doing it like to spite you or anything. I just mean that if you have well-performing videos and it's about a certain topic, it's going to attract people on that topic.
Yeah.
So instead of becoming a media influence, instead of my channel being just talking about media and Game of Thrones being part of that, towards the end of the series, I kind of got scared that, now people what if a lot of my audience just wants me to make Game of Thrones stuff? They're not here for me, they're here for Game of Thrones stuff.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a weird adjustment period for a while there, and I think I kind of pulled out of it.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm in a spot where I can kind of make videos. Like I made a video on Better Call Saul, I made one on Hannibal, I made one on True Detective, I made one on Euphoria. I'm kind of in a spot where I have built enough of an audience where I can kind of make whatever I want, whether it's on a video game. I think definitely I am pigeonholed in a lot of people expect long-form content from me, or on the longer side, which is good because I actually enjoy that. I actually really enjoy, taking a few months and working on a big project as opposed to making a bunch of little videos. So I'm happy with that. But to kind of bring it back around, I think the issue with... So I can't really say about, like, Drinker what exactly him and his, like, other people who just, talk about, like, Marvel and Disney and all the mainstream stuff. I don't really know exactly what their motivations are. I don't know if it is... I think in some cases it is just a full-on grift in the sense that these people are just hyping up culture war, bullshit, like, fuck Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars and yada, yada, yada. And they're just amping it up to get the clicks and get the money. Because you can make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah.
However, I think one thing that's kind of stood out about The Drinker, at least from the little I've seen from him, is that granted, I think he is a bit of a grifter in the sense that he purposely puts out videos to try to pander to his base of, he's not going to put out a video being like, hey, maybe we are a little bit too harsh on Marvel movies. Like, no, there's a certain audience that he's built that is more apt to... I don't want to hear you talk about some, like, foreign film that you really liked. I want you to talk about this Marvel film that sucks.
Yeah.
However, I do, at least from what I've seen, I do think he is sincere in the sense that some of the stuff that he said, I truly think he does believe, for better or worse.
Yeah.
For example, I think just recently, one that I saw was that I think he made a video on Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And in the video, he is really critical of, like, Peter B. Parker being feminized or being, like, emasculated.
Yeah.
And and what's really interesting is that if you actually look at the comments, a lot of his own followers disagree with him. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you, like, no, it's not really. Like, you're sort of like, you're kind of like seeing ghosts. Like, you're kind of like projecting a lot of stuff onto this where it's not really there. You're reading it in bad faith.
Yeah.
However, what's interesting about that is that you would think, well, it's like, well, if he was a grifter, he probably was just saying that to pander to his audience. It's like, well, his audience clearly didn't agree. So I genuinely think in some cases, him and others like that, I think they do genuinely have these beliefs. I don't agree with those beliefs. Like, that he's almost, I've used this term before. I call it culture war goon brain.
Yeah.
Where, do you remember, like, back in, like, the mid-2010s where, like, you'd get, like, kind of, like, cringy SJW types being like,
yes,
this show is sexist because the bad guy's a black guy, and everyone's like, what? That's kind of weird. Like,
yes.
Like, it's kind of, like, you're kind of reaching. You're kind of, like, projecting a lot of stuff onto this.
Yeah.
And, those people got criticized. I mean, a lot of it was, like, way over the top. But I think, like, a lot of their takes were really cringy. Like, the sort of Anita Sarkeesian-esque, stuff about, like, how everything's sexist and racist. And yet, what's so funny is that I see a lot of that same rhetoric from the other side now, where you have these like sort of grifter influencers who were so sensitive that just seems so anything that's like, oh, did you see the scene where the female hero like humiliated the male? And it's like, no, not really. Like, you're kind of like you're really projecting a lot onto this. Like a lot of normal people aren't you're kind of in your own little bubble there.
Yeah.
And it's just very ironic that I see a lot of these people. They have kind of become what they hate just for the other extreme. But yeah.
Wow, that's another great answer. Have you ever scrapped a video at any point?
Oh. In most cases, they kind of died on the vine.
Okay.
At one point, I was going to do, and this kind of ties in with your last question. At one point, I was going to do a rewrite of the sequel trilogy, similar to what I did with the Game of Thrones series. I was going to do a rewrite of the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
Okay.
And I had mapped a little bit of it out, and I was excited about it. But at that point, it was around the time when the platform began to pretty much anything, like if you Google, I'm sure if you like search The Last Jedi right now on YouTube, you're going to get some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Where it's just a lot, like, and granted, there are some people who I think are, approaching it in goodwill and like, are giving it a chance and trying to like make it better. But a lot of it's just like, unfortunately, Disney Star Wars has become sort of like a symbol for a certain sect of people online. For like, it's not just about that media. It's more of like a bad omen of media in general.
Okay. And
the problem is that the response I saw to those videos was it wasn't people like, so similar to like sort of like The Last of Us Part 2, one thing that I wanted to do with that was approach the story on its own terms. There were tons of videos that were just like, this is cringe, this sucks, Neil Druckmann's a cuck. But in that video, I was like, hey, there's a lot of potential here. And I actually think the story was incredibly ambitious. And I understood what it was trying to do. And yet the execution of the story simply didn't. I actually think one of the main comments I get on that video are like, wow, I thought you were going to be a lot more negative about this video game, given its length and the title. And yet you actually praised a great deal of it. I'm like, yeah, because there's a lot to praise, but there also is a lot to criticize.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about the Disney Star Wars trilogy, where, particularly Last Jedi, where I'm like, there's a lot to criticize. I am not a big fan of that movie. However, I actually think that there were some interesting ideas flying around.
Yeah.
That kind of like that Rian Johnson was trying to set up, and he did some cool things, but it just didn't really land, and it just kind of got muddled. And so that's why I was really interested to talk about it. However, at that time, and maybe things have changed, maybe I could do it now, but at that time I didn't think that people who would come into that video, they weren't looking for a measured take. They either wanted me to say this is good or this is bad, and I didn't have any interest in getting involved in that discourse. So that was a series that I ended up scrapping, unfortunately.
Interesting.
Maybe one day, but yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned The Last of Us 2 and Last Jedi. Because here's the thing, right? I wasn't even in the film community per se. Like, I was just, again, like, whatever was on, whatever is in theaters, I wanted to watch it. I don't care what movie it was. But, like, the funniest thing about The Last Jedi was, like, here's the thing. Here's a confession. Here's the thing. I loved Force Awakens when it came out. Like, I remember, like, I was so hyped. Again, me, my dad, like, we all watched it. It was great. It was amazing. That ending, like, the ending was like, it felt like I was in a Coliseum, man. Like, everybody was going crazy, right? Luke Skywalker is back now. And Last Jedi comes out, and I'm like, it's just, I see the chatter, I'm like, man, I kind of got spooked to see the movie, which is, again, that never happens, right? So I was like, okay, let me watch this movie in its entirety. I watched it. I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, and then I see all these videos on videos telling how this movie is like destroying like Western society. I'm just like, what? Like, it didn't make any sense. It's the same thing for, again, Last of Us Part 2. Like, I still think the first one is better than the second one. But the thing about the second one is I think people kind of misunderstand its messaging, right? You know, I feel like people, again, misunderstand the fact that a lot of those themes of, again, isolation and revenge and love and all these things, you know, it's set up in a post-apocalyptic world, right? And that game was released during a pandemic. That's an aspect that, again, I don't know why people do not bring that aspect up more. It's just, again, people just, for whatever reason, didn't want to, again, they didn't want to deal with that. And I think, again, people just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like people just kind of, I would say, kind of overreacted in a way. And not to say that the game is perfect. No, it's not. But a lot of the videos I was trying to watch, they were making this thing out as a crime against humanity. I'm like, bro, it's just a game. Like, I understand, like, you know, these things can mean a lot for people. You know, you hear these stories how a movie or a game or a show or an artist saved this person's life, actually, right? But, you know, it's just, it is what it is, I guess.
Well, it kind of goes back sort of along with Last Jedi and Last of Us Part 2. Even when I was making granted, I was still going to make a video on Last of Us Part 2 just because I really loved the first Last of Us. I was really hyped for Part 2. And so that was a game that was really special to me. Yeah. The first one. So I was going to make a video anyway. Whereas Star Wars, I'm kind of like, you know, a lot of people grew up with, like, you know, they had Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever, and I didn't really have any strong connection to those properties. I watched the Lord of the Rings films for the first time, like, last year. And Star Wars, same. I didn't actually see them in full until I was, like, in my 20s, I think. Yeah. But, yeah, when I played The Last of Us Part 2, I had a lot of issues with it. And so to your point about, like, talking about, like, theme, and I think there's sort of, like, a middle ground where what I was seeing was that there were a lot of people who were completely dismissing the game on the grounds of things, you know, stupid things. Like, there was the rumor that Abby was going to be trans prior to the game releasing. That was, like, really weird. I was like, what the fuck? And then, of course, Joel being killed off in the game. Spoilers. Like, I mean, the game's been out for, like, 6 years at this point. And a lot of people were really... It really felt like that in particular, killing off Joel, that choice was more of a... There were some people who just didn't like it and would never agree with it no matter what, and you could never reason with them. Yeah. And that's why when I made my video, I was like, hey, look, I actually think that killing off Joel was actually interesting. I actually think that was an interesting idea, set up an arc for Ellie. Yeah. And given his... I kind of think his story was sort of wrapped up from part one, where it made sense, and given his past and everything, and given the world they set up, this is like pretty consistent. Granted, I mentioned in the game I did have my critiques of that plot point and how it was executed. But the problem was that I was caught between people who were either like, didn't care about this, kind of excused the execution. I'm like, it's like, hey, like, you know, I think that there's a lot of issues here. It's like, yeah, but like, this is like the theme. This is the idea. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like, it's all about how that theme is executed. Yeah. But then on the other spectrum, there are people who you tried to talk, they were just like, who cares about themes? Themes don't matter. Like, none of that matters. Like, well, no, it is actually important to a story. Themes of a story are important. That's sort of like a weird, like, culture war thing that's become, like, you know, quote unquote media literacy, where people are sort of like, it's like themes versus plot or like storytelling, and I'm kind of like, it's weird to see a lot of critics, so-called critics who like love film and storytelling, try and talk about themes and the plot as if they're two like disconnected and like completely separate things.
Yeah,
it's like it's weird. It's like it's like listening. It's like maybe this is the best. That's not really a good example. Never mind. But like it's just weird. Like it's like when I'm watching a movie or a story, the themes and the plot it's all part of the same package. You have to kind of take it all as it is.
Yeah.
And so in a weird, I would see people kind of try and like almost compartmentalize them. It's like, well, the themes were really good, so that means it's good. It's like, well, the execution was bad, so that means it's bad. And it's like, well, hang on. Let's like, why are we talking about this in such like stupid binary terms?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was another one where I'm like, and luckily, a lot of the response I got from that video was that like, hey, thank you for kind of having a more like measured, reasonable take, kind of taking all of that and sort of, putting it all into its context. Yeah. But so much of after I finished my video, I went back and watched other people's videos, and I saw so much of that where it was either one extreme or the other, like excusing all the sort of like the issues with the execution in favor of the themes, or people just completely disregarding what the game was trying to do. That's sort of like, to kind of answer your question, that is what what I think a good critic should try to do. You have to understand what the game is trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to like what The Last of Us Part 2 was trying to do, but you should be able to articulate what it was trying to do. Like, it's like, okay, I understand exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
I understood what they were trying to put across, what the game was trying to instill in the player, and it was really interesting and ambitious. However, I just had a lot of problems with the execution. I still consider the game probably one of the most ambitious I've seen in some years.
Yeah.
But good luck trying to get a lot of people, especially ones who have built their channel around, like you said, people who are just about like, this thing is terrible and sucks. That energy of, if they have that energy on their channel, good luck trying to get them to have a more measured response.
Wow, that's another great answer. My next question is what's the next video that you're working on? You can give us a little bit of a teaser, or maybe, what's the thought process of the next video you're making right now?
So similar to my other long form videos, on the most recent ones I did one on Hannibal, the television show, and Euphoria, the television show. Yeah. I am doing one on the House of Cards US, which was the Kevin Spacey.
That's a lot. That's a lot, man.
Funny enough, I actually was like, hey, man, this is going to be like an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm scripting it, and it's probably going to be more like 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
I didn't realize I had a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
I'm also talking a lot about how it relates to the UK series. Yeah. The House of Cards UK.
Yeah.
With Ian Richardson.
Yeah.
And the more I look into it, it's really interesting to see how, as an adaptation, there are certain cultural and political themes, not really themes, but aspects of the story, of the UK story, that when they tried to adapt it to the US, they didn't really translate.
Yeah.
It's kind of too complicated to talk about here, but it's very interesting. And the more I dive into it, the more you kind of see where things kind of like got lost in translation between cultures and political structures. So it's really cool. So I'm excited for that. It's going to take a long time. Hopefully I'll have it out by the end of the year. But other than that, maybe this is going to be a long shot. Do you remember the film Deja Vu with Denzel Washington?
Yes.
The time travel movie? Okay.
That film was fun.
So I've been kind of obsessed with that movie for years. I saw it when it was in theaters, so I was 14 when it came out? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been obsessed with that movie in the sense that I used to never think that it made sense. I'm a huge fan of time travel movies, films that deal with time loops and shit. Anything like that, I'll eat that shit up. However, the problem is that like most of them don't make sense. Most of them are filled with plot holes. Most of them are just riddled with like inconsistencies and like, you know, the time travel aspect is just a plot device for drama or action or intrigue or whatever. However, there are sometimes when I'll come across a time loop movie that is very like rock solid or is like you can tell it's really thought out. One of my favorites, maybe one of my favorite movies ever, is Primer.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most. It's notorious for its dialogue being very esoteric and complex.
Yeah.
And the plot is incredibly confusing. And yet, if you actually watch it, if you kind of like take the time and map it out, it actually is very consistent. It's very it's very well planned out. There are no the writer Shane Carruth, I think that's how you pronounce it, really went the extra mile to making sure the story kind of like was solid and was there were no like lingering plot hole. I'm sure like if I rewatch it I'd find it, but regardless.
Yeah.
And so the reason I bring that up is because Deja Vu was on like free YouTube movies, and so I was like, oh, that cool. So I rewatched it, and it was always a film that I just kind of presumed was like filled with plot holes and didn't make sense. But as I was rewatching it, I actually think it might actually be a lot more. It might be better written than I initially presumed. Like, I actually think there's a lot more going on in that movie than some people would presume. And I think one of the reasons why is because Tony Scott directed that movie. And he directed, like, an action movie, which it really isn't. It's more of, like, a mystery thriller. Funny enough, while I was looking into it in preparation for the video, So the original script for Deja Vu sold for a record like $5 million, like something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the writers, when it was handed over to Tony Scott, they were actually very unhappy because they were like, hey, Tony Scott really is the right director for this story. It's not really... and I actually might even reach out to the writers and see if I can get them on record, but they have gone on record saying that they think that Tony Scott's direction of the film kind of ruined their script. He left out a lot of little things and plot points that actually kind of make the story make sense.
Yeah.
And I actually found a copy of, you can find a copy of the first draft of the original script online.
Yeah.
So the more I look into it, I'm kind of interested in maybe like comparing the film and the script and actually breaking down whether or not the film's rules of time travel actually make sense. I'm actually getting, and now I'm kind of I'm hyping myself up now that you asked me about it. I'm talking about it. I'm like, oh, this actually kind of sounds pretty sick. So that might be, because the House of Cards video is like such a monster.
Yeah.
For 3.5, 4 hours long probably, and I just need, that was another reason why I did the Boy Scouts video. I needed to break it up a little bit.
Okay. Interesting. It's a bit of a two-part question. What's the future of your channel? And if YouTube is, a part-time thing, do you see yourself, again, this becoming a full-time thing, or like how's that going to work?
Probably not. I mean, there was one point I think I really tried to make it a full-time thing where I was like, trying to put out a video every 2 weeks to a month. But the problem was, and this kind of ties back to, us talking about like, people who grift and kind of people who are, putting out content that's like very sort of like ideologically bent, is that what I found when I was doing it, when I was like in that period of like really trying to do this kind of like full time, was that one, it's not very financially stable. You can make a video, even if you have a huge channel, there are some videos that just won't perform well. And then things can get demonetized randomly, sometimes not even due to content, just YouTube, it's kind of a shit show. So I didn't really feel confident, like, wanting to take that gamble. And I have a day job which I like a lot, so I like that too. But also, I think the reason I want to keep YouTube sort of like part time is just because then it allows me to make the stuff I want to make without being super concerned. Obviously, like, I'd love it if all my videos did great. But I also am not really making it. I don't want to make them solely for that reason. I just don't want to make videos that will just, I know this will do good and it will get me a lot of views and that's what I want and a lot of engagement. Like, yeah, that's great, but that's not really why I want to make videos.
Yeah.
And so if I were to try and make this like my full employment, my full-time job, you run the risk of sort of falling into, okay, instead of making a video on Deja Vu, this, time travel movie from almost 20 years ago, or, the Boy Scouts video, I have to make movies on stuff that's popular. So the Marvel movies and the Disney movies and, and that's when you fall into, that's the thing, I think, when you look into a lot of grifters.
Yeah.
Granted, I think there are some that I would call grifters that are sort of like pushing a very sort of like an ideological viewpoint. They're kind of there's like something else going on.
Yeah.
However, I think for a lot of people, they're just it's more than this. They just want money. They and again, I shouldn't say like we all want money, but I mean it's their YouTube has become sort of their career, their job. So their job is to generate revenue.
Yeah.
That's the point of a job. So that means you have to do things that push engagement, which means being divisive and, talking about popular things and very polarizing things and, which is fine. I mean, well, and I don't want to say fine because a lot of these people I really detest with a seething passion, but I get it. Like, I understand what's going on here. And I don't want to ever feel the pressure of having to do that to, so it won't affect my bottom line. And so that is why again, maybe in my head, there was one time when I was like, oh, let's do YouTube full time. That'd be great. I'm kind of glad that I kind of got that out of my system where this is more just like this is more or less a side hustle basically for me, which I am very happy. I think I think it's good.
All right. Have you heard of Tron Legacy?
That was the one. Wait, let me look it up because that was the one with Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
With Garrett Hedlund. Yeah. Was that good? I didn't actually ever see it.
You should watch it. Yo, I was gonna. Cause here's the thing. I was gonna segue to another question because my next question to you is like, would you do a video on something like Tron or maybe just a franchise as a whole in the near future? Because I really think there's a lot that I think you would like about the film, and there would be a lot that you might not mess with. But I think there's the themes and the atmosphere and the soundtracks. Obviously, I feel like those themselves are part of the film as much as the film itself, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I actually kind of did a video on that where I usually do my long-form videos on a single piece of media. So, a television series or a season or, in some cases, a video game. However, I did one on the James Bond Daniel Craig saga. So I talked about all 5 films and how they kind of connected and meshed and didn't mesh. And that was actually a lot of fun. I actually think eventually what I want to do is kind of branch out. I still like doing what I'm doing now with like just talking about like a single TV show. Although, even talking about my House of Cards video, I am pulling a lot from the UK series. I'm talking about that a lot. I'm talking about how they relate and how they connect and don't connect. So I think eventually I might do a video, kind of like what you said, on a franchise. So like maybe like talking about all the Jurassic Park films or something. And sort of like how they connect and how they don't connect. And instead of just focusing on one film or one individual piece of media, talking about them in the context of their full history. No, actually Tron would be interested. I never actually even saw the first Tron.
Yeah, Tron Ares is going to come out in under a month.
Too. That looked kind of cool. Yeah.
I think I think I don't know, you do, and like because I don't think you ever did like a movie review when the movie like came out, right? So I think that might be a nice change of pace, whatever how you receive it, negative or positive. I think
very rarely. I think I did a couple. I think I did one for the Batman.
Yeah.
All right, there was a couple I did, but yeah, usually I like to kind of sit with it. I like to, especially like if it's a TV show.
Yeah.
I like to kind of sit with it for a while and kind of like let things die down and like kind of collect my thoughts.
Yeah.
I think there's sort of again, it really depends on what an individual is trying to do with their channel.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's sort of a danger in reviewing something, especially like if you're doing a long form review, doing it like almost immediately after you view something.
Yeah.
Like there are some movies or video games that like when I first saw them or played them, I was kind of like, I don't really like this. But then like as time went on, I kind of sat with it and I'm like, oh, okay, actually let me revisit that. And I was like, oh, okay, this actually wasn't as bad as, as I thought. And granted, you can, it's like, well, it's just YouTube, who cares? It's like, yeah, but I'd like to, give things a fair shot. I like to be very sort of like measured and fair. And I think for a lot of people, if you try to review something immediately after seeing it without kind of letting it sit or like digesting it or even, God forbid, watching it once, more than once, you kind of run into the trap of everything was either great or bad. I hated this or I love this. And it's like, well, just maybe give it like a month and sit on it, then rewatch it, and then maybe you'll have a bit more measured. I think that was part of the reason why a lot of discourse was the way it was with like Last Jedi or Last of Us, where when they first came out, people were either like, yeah, fuck yeah, Star Wars, or they were like, this shit sucks, I hate it. But then as time went on, granted, there are people still in those camps, but I think a lot of people are like, okay, now that things have cooled down, now let's revisit it and let's turn the heat down a little bit and really analyze it.
Yeah. Wow, that's another great answer. Have you heard of the movie Him that's coming out next Friday?
Yeah, me and my wife are really excited. We're seeing it Thursday opening night.
Wow. Would you make a video about that at some point? If the movie's good or?
Maybe. I've heard. So the film was picked up by.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think, are mistakenly thinking it's a Jordan Peele film.
Yeah.
It was picked up by his production company, Monkey Paw Productions. And it was based off of a spec script called Goat.
Yeah.
Greatest of all time. But it was renamed Him for the film. I have been trying to restrain I have no self-restraint. I have no self-accountability. So I'm really excited for the film, and I'm trying not to read because you can find the original spec script online. And I'm trying to stop myself. I'm just like, I just want to read it. But no, I'll wait until Thursday. But no, right when we saw the trailer, we were both like, this looks awesome. This looks really cool.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for it.
Do you think, like, obviously we're in award season, and I don't think, even if Him is like a horror classic, I don't think that film's going to be like in Best Picture conversation, but you think Him could potentially sort of shift the discourse, shift the conversation, just like Get Out or Nope or even Sinners earlier this year, right? Do you think the potential is there? Like, where do you sort of view it?
In terms of like breaking, like kind of like proving that horror thrillers are like awards worthy, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, yeah.
Yes and no. Like, particularly, I think Sinners has probably the best shot this year.
Yeah.
Not only because of its of how popular it was, but also it was like a very it's funny. The film is actually more like very epic in scope.
Yeah.
However, the film only takes place really in like one location for most of it. It's actually kind of cool, where it's a film that's like very isolated and claustrophobic, and it feels a lot bigger than maybe the story, actually is. The problem is that like even when Get Out came out, and a lot of people were like really pushing for it, it still only ended up, he only won. Jordan Peele won Best Original Screenplay, right?
Yeah.
It was not. A lot of people were like, "Oh man, what if it's, going to get Best Picture, Best Director?" And as much as I'm like, yeah, but the Academy is still so. Even they've tried to make efforts to a lot of people talked about like in terms of diversity, in terms of like whether white, black, skin color, in terms of diversity within the Oscar pool. I think the biggest divide is simply between old and young critics.
Yeah.
That is the issue. It's not. I don't even think it's so much as more. It has less to do with race and more to do with.
Yeah.
You have a certain pool of the voting body who thinks movies can only kind of be one thing.
Yeah.
In terms of, and this is like where we get Oscar baity, like like these big, sweeping dramas and very costume pictures and all that. Yeah. Whereas stuff like action films or sci-fi or horror films, they always get kind of like screwed. Yeah. And I really don't think that even as time has gone on, I don't really think that has changed. It doesn't really. Very rarely do we get something. Will something kind of break out from that? Yeah. But for the most part, I just when Get Out, it got all that hype, but then it only won Best Original. And most people knew that. They were like, "Oh, what if it wins Best Picture?" I'm like, "It's not going to win Best Picture. Not because it's not worthy. It's because it's just not the kind of film that wins Best Picture."
Okay.
Because you have so many people in the Academy who are just so staunch in their ways, and maybe as time goes on, things will change. Particularly because I know the Oscars are really trying to up their viewership.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think that there's that sort of like cultural bias against these certain types of films. Just will never budge, unfortunately.
Okay.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
But. It's difficult, man. I don't know what I don't even know, and maybe it has something to do with like, film festival culture.
Yeah.
Where is this film quote unquote important? Is this film timely, quote unquote?
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people I think sort of like miscontribute that to like, they're like, they want woke films and like all that crap, yada yada yada. It's like it really isn't that. Yeah. It doesn't have so much to do with that. Like that is a factor in it, But it's more to do with like this sort of like quote unquote prestige.
Yeah.
Is this a serious picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think there was a great talk. Paul Thomas Anderson. He said when he was in film school.
Yeah.
He on his first day, the teacher was like, "Hey, just so you know, this is like." I think he went to NYU. I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, the film teacher was like, "Hey, man, this is where we make serious film. We're not going to make Terminator 2. And he was like, "Well, that's stupid. I like Terminator 2. There's sort of this like weird bias of there are serious pictures. There are serious pictures, and then there are non-serious pictures.
Yeah.
And I think as time has gone on, again, there are some that broke through. Mad Max Fury Road, I think, is a film that I think is fantastic and has really kind of broken through that, where it's despite it being like a full tilt action picture, it really has sort of, become it's being talked a lot about like in like best of conversations of the century and whatnot. But for the most part, I think there's still so much bias deeply ingrained where certain film genres just do not get a fair shake.
Yeah.
So even if him is a masterpiece, it just will still alienate a certain sect of the film going public simply because not the public, more of like the sort of like top brass
Yeah.
Whether it's the film festivals or the Oscars or whatnot, it's just going to alienate them because it's not that kind of picture. It's not a quote unquote prestige picture, which whatever that means in today's day and age.
Yeah. The one worry, though, about the conversation around him that I'm worried about, because you go onto the trailers or even the people who are analyzing the movie, right? There are so many of these comments talking about conspiracy and all this is a guidebook to sell your soul or whatever. It's just like, it's not that deep, man. Like, it's just like...
Wait, the people that think it's like a demon worship or something?
Yeah. It's so silly, man. It really is silly. Like, and look, man, I understand, like, those type of movies can be frightening for people who are not used to that. If that's the case, then just don't watch it. Like, no one's forcing you to watch something. That's the thing.
Wait, are they, like, what are they critiquing? Like, just, like, the content, or?
It's everything, right? It's like, it's gonna, like, bring you on the age of the Antichrist. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like...
Oh, yeah. Well, those people just... I think... So, and this is something else where when we first saw the trailer, where it looked very disturbing. It looks like it's pretty gory. It's going to be pretty, visually intense. However, I think what people need to... And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, when we're looking at a filmmaker, what is the film trying to do?
Yeah.
It seems like, and I haven't seen the film yet, but I'm just kind of presuming... It looks like what the film is trying to do, just from the trailer and the story. It's using the gore and blood and the visceral, violence and the horror to make a statement about what it costs a young man to make it in professional sports in today's day and age. Where he basically, like you put it well, you not just have to sell your soul, you basically have to sell your life, your health, your sanity.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, you have to basically, particularly with professional football, you basically sacrifice your body. Like professional football players die at like what? What's the average age? Is like in their 40s or 50s or something? Like something ridiculous because they just tear their body apart, their mind.
Yeah.
CTE and all that stuff. Well, granted, like a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but the NFL sure doesn't. Yeah. But that's sort of what, and it kind of carries over to anything. Like it makes me, this just from the trailer, it made me think of like Black Swan.
Yeah. Whiplash, films, I would say.
Yes, films about like.
Have you watched Starry Eyes?
Starry Eyes, no.
It's essentially it's like. It's essentially, it kind of takes the concept of what him's trying to do, and they're like a lot more like literal with it. Instead of a man, it's a woman, right? And she like tries to make it as an actress, and the company she's trying to work for, they worship this entity, and it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild.
But that's the thing is a lot of people will, obviously like the usual suspects will be like, oh, this demon worship, their conspiracy, yada yada, and it's like. Well, what is the film trying? What's the metaphor? What is it? What is the film sort of like in the macro? What is the film trying to say? And it's talking about our idea of success. What is if I were to sit down and ask someone, what is success? What does that mean? I'm going to get. I've had 10 different people. I'm going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
However, when we look at society, like and sort of like general, we tend to look at people who have. Just people who have like a lot of money or people who have a lot of fame or attention on them as that is how we deem sort of like successful.
Yeah.
However, as time has gone on, we start, and funny enough, this actually ties back to, the male body standards video where we're like, it's like, wow, man, this guy is like super ripped and women are like thirsting over him and he's like got a six pack on, in the movies. Like, isn't that awesome? Isn't that great? And it's like this guy like, has to diet down and he's miserable and he's probably taking steroids and he just like shaved like 10 years off his life because he's been taking steroids for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And he's got like all these medical problems, it's like this, and particularly with the NFL, it's like, wow, man, these guys are making millions and millions of dollars. And it's like, sure, but they're also getting the shit kicked out of them. They're on the road for like 9 months at a time. They can't see their families. They can't hold a relationship or see their kids. And again, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, boo-hoo, you're making millions." It's like, fair enough. But the point is that it's breaking down what does it cost to be quote unquote successful in society in today's day and age, and it's using blood and the visceralness of the violence as sort of like to really like, because again, you can have like a straight drama about like, whether CTE or the pressures of stardom, but it hits, and that's why I think horror particularly is such a flexible genre. You can use violence and horror and terror to sort of like a metaphor, as to really sell to the audience the visceral cost of seeking what we think. And you brought up as well, Whiplash is also a great example of, is the ending a happy ending? Is it, did he succeed, quote unquote?
Yeah.
He had to basically alienate everyone in his life and drive himself to the brink of insanity. But he won, right? I'm like, well, I guess it depends on what you think success is, what winning is to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably not to me. At my age, I probably wouldn't consider that successful, but yeah.
Man, that's you're saying great answers as usual all throughout this interview currently, but the one thing I find very interesting is that you mentioned something about success, right? How one person's success might be another person's like failure, right? And I'll bring up the example of someone you probably know this. You probably know who Millie Bobby Brown is, right?
Yes.
Okay. I always gonna bring her up because when Stranger Things started out, right? Like, again, everybody loved the cast, and especially her. She's getting all that love. And then next thing you know, I think it was season 3, I think season 3, that's probably like the most divisive season out of the whole Stranger Things sort of canon, which is crazy because like that season's fire. But I understand why people might not mess with it as the other ones. And then a lot of people start saying, man, she interrupts people. She's a diva, this, that, and the third. You have the whole Drake situation. And it's just like, we can't even talk about what she's doing on screen. It's everything else. And she has nothing to do with that. Right? And we oftentimes forget, like, man, she was 11, 12 years old when the show started. Right? And look what she's done. And if you take a step back, it's really remarkable. Right? I'll say the same thing for someone like Bow Wow and Soulja Boy and other people. Like, I'm sure those people have their baggage. But, like, this thing about we have to raise someone up, then tear them down when they're threatening someone that we like, I don't like that. Because it spreads the message of, one person's always going to be at the top. Like, no, that's not true. No one is unsurpassable. Like, again, do you watch soccer or sports in general?
No, not really.
Okay. You mentioned the NFL. You mentioned the NFL. It's, obviously, you have, Brady fans saying nobody's ever going to pass him up. And I'm like, that's not how it works, man. Like, the thing is that there's always going to be someone that is going to be at the top. And that someone is going to be someone different every 25, 35, 40 years. Right? So, my question to you is, how do we sort of combat that? And how do we better appreciate the talents that we have, despite us maybe not liking their work in the present time?
I don't think we ever will. I think that's a tale as old as time. It's so, like, to bring it back to the Millie Bobby Brown situation is a perfect example of a lot of people. I think with her, she came onto the scene with 11, and it was huge and it was great. A lot of people. So, like, if I were to ask you, do you think Millie Bobby Brown is successful? And it's like, some people would go to her Wikipedia page, and it's like, well, yeah, she was in Stranger Things, but, like, she hasn't really been in anything else, or she's been in other bad movies. And she's, she hasn't really been in a lot of other stuff. And it's like, she hasn't won an Oscar or an Emmy or anything, It's like, okay, well, that doesn't really answer the question. Like, that's, like, to you, if that is your definition of success, sure, then she's not successful. But I think she's, what is she, married? Her and her husband adopted a kid, right?
Yeah.
So So it seems like, okay, well, it seems like she's happy. She's probably made a shit ton of money from Stranger Things. Probably never has to work again in her life, as long as they manage their money well, hopefully. And she is married to someone she loves, and they have a kid, and it seems the dream, right? But when we're talking about quote unquote again success, or like a perfect example, I'm originally from Boston.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, Tom Brady obviously is, the GOAT, and everyone loves Tom Brady, yada, yada, yada. But what's so funny is that after he left the Patriots, I mean, I'm sure you know the whole story where, his wife was like, all right, Tom, now it's time to, you've literally won, like, God knows how many Super Bowls, and you have a huge legacy, and you have millions and millions of dollars, and you never have to work again. Now you can spend your life with me and your kid. And then what does he do? He joins like the Pirates, or like he's like basically he's still playing, right? He's just not really anything notable now. And then his wife left him for some jiu-jitsu teacher or something. So yeah, it's like, okay, well, right, is that successful? It's like, well, I don't know. That seems like that sucks. Like, bro, like what? And maybe there are people like that, people who are just like, I just need to keep going and pushing and pushing. I'm like, all right, like, but I don't know. At what point does it sort of like, does it kind of like curve back around where you're like, now you're just kind of ruining your life in a way? You're just, what are you doing this for? Are you even enjoying this?
Yeah.
Are you even like having fun? Are you striving towards something, or are you just doing it because you're doing it? Yeah, but I don't know. It's like. But to answer your question, I don't really think us in a society are ever going to pull away from that, especially when it comes to celebrities, movie stars, athletes, business people, whatever.
Yeah. The
quote unquote view of success in society is a perfect example. Like Steve Jobs, is he successful? It's like, well, he made Apple, and so it's like well, he abandoned his child. Apparently he was a huge asshole, and like so many people in his life thought he was a dick, and then he ended up dying because he refused treatment for cancer. It's like, oh, but he made Apple, man. It's like, all right. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think that our society's view of like what constitutes success is, and the thing is that like, I think if you ask most people, like if we were to sit down with them and talk like we are, they would agree. They would be like, yeah, totally. But then when you kind of like back up and look at how society reacts to movie stars and celebrities, it just is ingrained in our culture. And I don't think we'll ever get away from that. I can't see ourselves ever get away from that. Us idolizing movie stars and, pop stars and athletes, even though we know all this horrible shit and how they may not be happy behind the scenes. They may be miserable behind the scenes. And if we were given the chance to do that, we would be like, hell no, I don't want that life. That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
We just will never. Our society is built in a way where it perpetuates that, and I don't think we're ever going to get away from that.
Interesting. So my next question to you is, what is your favorite movie / director that you just, again, anytime their work comes on, you want to drop everything and watch it start to finish?
I don't really have a favorite director. There are some, as for like more like, there are several directors, like contemporary directors that I'm sort of like you said, like it's I will see no matter what. Paul Thomas Anderson obviously is a big one. I immediately bought opening night ticket for One Battle After Another. It's coming out in a couple weeks. Ari Aster, who did Hereditary and Midsommar. He did Beau is Afraid, and just recently he did Eddington. He's a director where even if some of his films miss, or are not as good as others, or like, are imperfect, that's a director where like, I don't need to see a trailer, I don't need to see shit. Ari Aster, I'm seeing it. That's a director I would really do. And there are a bunch of directors like that. Jordan Peele is a director like that. Zach Kreger, who did Barbarian and Weapons, is also coming up as someone who I'm like, anything that guy puts out, even if I'm not a huge fan of it. Anything he puts out, I'm going to go see.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a favorite one. I do have directors who I'm like, anything they put out, I'll go see.
Okay.
However, my favorite film, which I've spoken about several times on the channel, is Amadeus. 1984, F. Murray Abraham and Tom Hulse. It's based on, actually, funny enough, I'm actually seeing, they're putting on a stage projection of the play here in Chicago in December, so I'm actually seeing that for the first time, so that's awesome. But the film is my all-time favorite film.
Okay, interesting. What music are you listening to right now? What type of music do you like to listen to, in your free time?
Oh man, it's so funny you say that, because I am like, my wife is more of like a music person. She goes to a lot of concerts, and I was always the movie person. Although now she's kind of eclipsed me. She goes to the movies more often than I do, and like she is like more in the know on like film festival crap. And I'm like, damn it, like this is supposed to be my thing. For when it comes to music, I am like completely out of the loop. I don't know any new artists. I don't know anything. I probably like, if like in general, I'm more of like sort of like a dad rock kind of guy. Like,
yeah,
I think that was just from growing up and whatever my mom and dad listened to, I listened to.
Yeah,
I kind of I'm sort of like into that. When I was growing up, like Blink-182, Sum 41, Yellow Card, Simple Plan, those like emo punk bands from like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I'm more of a guy who just like it. Like if you were to look at like my Spotify liked songs, like my list, it is all over the place. There is no. My taste in music is like I have like songs from musicals on there. I have like instrumental music. Like it's just my taste in music is like all over the place.
Yeah.
Even some, I'm not one of those like, oh, except country. No, even some country's great. I like some like, stadium country shit. I'm like, okay, I can vibe with this. This isn't bad.
Do you listen to hip hop at all, or?
A little bit, yeah, here and there. But again, it's more of just like, I'm not up to date on any like current artists. It's more of just like on my Spotify Discover Weekly. If I hear a song I like, I'm like, yeah. But yeah, my taste is like all over the map.
Okay.
And it's weird because I don't really know what. Because I think more with movies, I'm more of like if you were to ask me like what kind of movies I like, I could probably give you a more coherent answer. Like I like all kinds of movies, but as for like what I prefer, I could probably give you a more coherent answer. Music, I have no idea as to why certain songs kind of resonate with me and others don't. I am just like I have there's no consistency in that regard.
Yeah.
For me.
Wow. Interesting. So my next question to you is there what sort of movie, sort of actor, director you think gets way too much hate, or you think is misunderstood in sort of any type of way, in your opinion?
I don't know about actors. Funny enough, who's a person I kind of, I don't really want to say I'm misunderstood, but someone that I think is like very interesting.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes back to our talk about like, what is success. I think a lot of people, when they talk about like what makes a good director, like your favorite director, and they'll talk about whether or not a director consistently makes good films. So, Paul Thomas Anderson, I think pretty much, there are some films like Licorice Pizza I wasn't really a big fan of.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Paul Thomas Anderson's a director where like everything he makes is like fantastic, or it's like very high quality. Quentin Tarantino, even if whether you like it or not, they're making really, really great films.
Yeah.
However, I think, but then people would sort of like rank. It's like, oh, is he a good director or a bad director? It's like, well, does he make good films or bad films? It's like, well, I've kind of been getting into like looking into directors where their filmography is kind of very I'm almost more interested in a director whose filmography is all over the place.
Yeah.
And the one person I have talked about recently is Ridley Scott.
Yes.
Now, obviously, if you were to ask, is Ridley Scott a good director? They'd be like, well, yeah, he did Alien, he did Blade Runner, he did Gladiator, so yeah, he's a great director. But when you actually look at his filmography, it's all over the map.
Yeah.
It is like,
yeah.
He did Prometheus, he did A Good Year, remember that one with Russell Crowe? He did Black Hawk Down. It's all over he did Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
He has as many hits as he does misses, I would say.
Yeah.
And yet, I actually am I'm kind of almost drawn to that more interesting. I think that's more interesting. It's like, how is it that this guy who can make Alien and Blade Runner can also make, I don't know, A Good Year or Gladiator 2?
Yeah.
And it's weird. I actually kind of am more interested in seeing a director whose filmography is sort of very inconsistent and there's a lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah.
Scorsese is also another director who, granted, all of his films are fantastic. I don't think he's ever made a bad movie. Yeah. However, a lot of people talk about, his big ones, like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull and Goodfellas, all great films.
Yeah.
And yet, then he'll make The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah.
He'll make Kundun. He'll make New York, New York.
Yeah.
So he's a director, when you kind of really step back and look at his full filmography, I think he's a lot, I'm talking about Scorsese, he's a lot more interesting than people give him credit for. Because when people talk about Scorsese, kind of like the quote-unquote film bro, they'll be like, yeah, Raging Bull, yeah, Taxi Driver, yeah, Goodfellas, yeah, The Departed. And it's like Wolf of Wall Street. It's like, okay, that's one side of his filmography.
Yeah.
But, let's talk about whatever his lesser-known stuff. The Last Temptation of Christ. Bringing Out the Dead with Nicolas Cage.
After Hours.
After Hours, fuck yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of great... I think you're almost kind of selling a director short when you only focus on their big films. Spielberg even kind of in there, where he made a lot of... You tell someone Spielberg... I was like, oh, Jurassic Park, oh, Schindler's List. It's like, oh, you see The Color Purple? It's like, the what? He directed that? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. It's like, it really feels like, narrative and memes have now become the conversation instead of like the actual film itself. I find it very interesting. I look at someone like, are you into Zack Snyder? I'm assuming you're not.
You know what? Funny enough, he's a director where, another example of a director where I actually don't like most of his films, but if a new Zack Snyder film were to come out, I actually might be more inclined to watch it than I would not, just because it's kind of interesting. Let me I'm pulling up his Dawn of the Dead. I actually really liked. He directed that. That was his first film. Wow. Yeah, I thought that was actually pretty good. I actually like 300, kind of.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of like, it's a controversial film. People love it or hate it, but I actually think it's kind of, for what it is, I like it. Watchmen, I'm torn on it, where obviously visually it is like incredibly faithful to the graphic novel, whereas content-wise, story-wise, I think it misses a lot of...
Yeah.
I talk about it in my Watchmen video, where I really think he kind of missed the mark on a lot of characters. And yeah, I still think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But then when you get to, his DC stuff, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, I'm kind of... I did watch his 4-hour cut of Justice League. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was very good, but I thought it was interesting. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. Like, that's the thing. I think it's different between like, oh, is this movie great or good, and is it kind of interesting? It's like, even if it's not awesome or mediocre, is it at least trying to do something cool? And it's like sometimes that is more interesting to me than this movie is fantastic or this movie sucks.
Yeah.
It's like this movie really shot for the stars, but it did not land. It did not stick the landing. I'm like, oh, that to me that is more interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas most people, I think, the problem with their quote unquote, media diet, as you would put it, like their what films they watch, they only tend to watch films on one extreme or the other.
Yeah. They
tend to watch hey, I heard awesome things about this movie. This movie is great. I'm going to watch it. Or this film sucks. It's terrible. It's so funny. We're going to watch it and laugh at it. Whereas, hey, I heard this movie was okay. This movie was kind of kind of weird. This movie was kind of pissed a lot of people off. I'm like, okay, I'll watch that movie. That sounds more interesting to me.
Okay. Interesting. Who was your celebrity crush growing up?
You know who I'll say?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I'll say it. Yeah, because so a while back I did a video on I did a video on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original live action trilogy. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
The one where they the third one they go to feudal Japan or something.
Yeah.
Judith Hogue,
Ooh.
who plays April O'Neil in the original film.
Yeah.
The original live action film.
Yeah.
That was big for me.
Okay.
She was big for me. Funny enough, I actually, on that video, if you go to the comments, she actually posted. I pinned the comment. She actually posted on it, and I was like, oh shit. I was a little embarrassed because I kind of mentioned my crush on her that I had in the video, and I was like, funny. Oh shit, that's. But no, that was big for me. She was her as April O'Neil in the original live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah. That was big for me. That was sort of an awakening moment when I was probably 10 or 11 or something.
Okay. Interesting. Wow, for me, I think it's I could break it down in eras, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good. I'm trying to think of that was probably my first big one, but then I've had others throughout the years, throughout my teen years and whatnot. Yeah.
One, it's funny because I used to have day crushes. So I would see a film and see someone in a film, and I would just be obsessed over them for that day, and I'll just forget about them. They're not on my mind the next day. So, for example, it's so funny. Remember, you probably already watched this movie. The Indiana Jones movie where they're fighting the Nazis, and there was this blonde henchman, blonde henchwoman, and they tied him up. They tied Indiana Jones and Sean Connery's character up, and she was just, and the fire was going crazy, and she was just standing there she was she was sort of me mugging them out. I'm damn, I just.
Oh, Elsa Schneider.
Yeah, that was
Crusade.
Yeah, that was one. Another one was funny enough. It was when I was younger. I think this was a couple years after Juno came out, and I was very young. I was just flipping the channels, and next thing you know, I watched Juno for 5 minutes, and when I saw Ellen Page at that time, it was my brain couldn't comprehend it. It was crazy, right? And I think that's why I kind of like Ellie, because she kind of looks like Ellen. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, so it was that my first real crush was Lana Del Rey. That was for 6-7 months, I couldn't stop thinking about her. It was crazy. I was daydreaming about her. I was talking about her in class, and people looked at me like I was crazy. My friends were you listen to this? I'm yes. And it's funny how now she's revered as this legend. And I would agree to that. Back in those days, it felt like she was in this weird middle spot where people appreciate the art, but people just sort of they're kind of sort of at arm's length. Another big one recently was this actually, I already kind of mentioned her name, Millie Bobby Brown and Haley Steinfeld. Those two something about them, and I know you might not again mess with every role they do or whatever, but
actually, Haley Steinfeld, when True Grit came out, before that was her first movie, I think. And I was like, what? When did that movie come out?
I think it was 2010. I think
so.
So
I was 18. Yeah. So, it was... There's certain movies where you'll see... well, it's funny because it's not even sometimes, like, bigger actors. Sometimes I'll watch, like, an older movie, and there'll be a random bit part player in the background, and it'll be the most, like, gorgeous person you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa. Like, holy shit. And then you'll have, like, a crush on that person. You don't even know who the actor's name is.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, shit, wow.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. What movie do you think is overhated and why?
I'm actually... I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to my Letterboxd and see... Because, like, there are certain films that, like, I have ranked highly and other people, like, have it ranked low.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Trying to think, is there, like, a movie where, like, everyone else has it ranked low.
Yeah.
But I have it ranked high. I don't know. Maybe I will say, just like off the top of my head, I know M. Night Shyamalan's Trap.
Yeah.
That came out just this year or two ago. That was a movie that I think, well, it was kind of more divisive. A lot of people were like, like some people were like, this is great, this is a lot of fun, or other people were like, this sucks. And but that's another movie. That's a movie where I think a perfect example of you have to meet the film on its own terms.
Yeah.
Where it seemed like a lot of people. It was a very campy, over-the-top, silly movie, like very purposefully.
Yeah.
People have to. I think people are sort of like incapable, or there are certain people who are incapable of sort of differentiating the two. Is this a bad movie or a film that's sort of leaning into camp or like a B movie style?
Okay.
And I think Trap is a movie that clearly is leaning into a B movie style.
Yeah.
Or like sort of like a lot of the choices, like Josh Hartnett's performance is very. I was like, oh, he acted bad. Like, no, he doesn't. He's acting perfectly.
Yeah.
For the character. But I think that one kind of had that discourse. Oh, you know what? Just came to mind. Because I saw it on Letterboxd. Do you remember Only God Forgives?
Yes, I remember that.
Which was Nicholas Winding Refn.
And Ryan Gosling was in it. And people were expecting like Drive 2.0, and people were like, "What?" It
was after Drive, and people were like, "Yo, this is gonna be awesome." And it got a lot of pretty polarizing reviews. Yeah. And yet, I really like that movie. I think that movie kind of fucks. That movie kind of rules.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, and that's a movie that, like, whether you love it or hate it, it is what it's trying to do is very. It's very clear what it's trying to do. It's style, and you don't have to like the style, but I think it's a lot more interesting and fun and badass than a lot of people give it credit for.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. I think it's because at the time everyone was expecting Drive. Everyone was like, Drive, the director of Drive, Ryan Gosling again. He wasn't even supposed to be. Ryan Gosling wasn't even the original choice for the main actor in that movie. Yeah. But when that actor dropped out, Ryan Gosling stepped up and took the role.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so we are heading towards the end of this interview, and every time I do a podcast, at least recently, I play this little game where it's kind of like a Q&A thing. So I give you like two artists or two people or two franchises or whatever, and you have to pick one or the other. You can't say both. And you can't say neither. You want to sort of explain a reason why or a story you picked that choice, you're free to do so. You cool with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Christopher Nolan or Stanley Kubrick?
Kubrick.
Okay. Tarantino or Coen Brothers?
Coen Brothers.
Okay.
That's another. I like Tarantino. I love him, but Coen Brothers is another example of filmmakers that I think their range is far greater. Tarantino makes Tarantino films.
Yeah.
Which are great, but the Coen Brothers, I think you can see elements of their style in all of their films.
Yeah.
But I don't think their style encapsulates the story. So like something like compare like No Country for Old Men to Burn After Reading to Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah.
Those are three. You can see the Coen Brothers' influence here, but they're all very individual films.
Yeah.
Whereas Tarantino is great, but I do feel like when I'm watching, this is a Tarantino. This feels like a Tarantino film.
Yeah.
And it is a Tarantino film.
Yeah. Okay. All right. David Lynch or David Cronenberg?
Lynch. I'm not really as well versed in Cronenberg. I have to catch up on him, but I love Lynch. So.
Okay. Aronofsky or Fincher?
Ooh, Fincher.
Okay.
Aronofsky is another director who I actually just saw his most recent film, Caught Stealing.
Yeah. With
Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Very different for him.
Yeah.
But enjoyable. It was fun.
Yeah.
He's another director that kind of is, he had The Wrestler and Black Swan, and then he kind of went weird. He made Mother, which it's another movie that a lot of people think sucks, and I actually really, really like Mother with Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
I never saw Noah. I got to get around to that.
Yeah.
And I didn't like The Whale. That was a little weird.
Okay. Okay. Tupac or Biggie?
I'll say Biggie because he's East Coast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with either of them, but...
Okay.
East Coast. There you go.
Kanye or Kendrick?
Oh, Kendrick.
Okay. Drake or Lil Wayne?
I'll say Drake only because I don't know anything about their music, either of them, but Drake was on Degrassi, The Next Generation, which is a show that was very big for my childhood.
Okay.
So I'll go with that one.
Okay. Batman or Spider-Man?
Probably Batman as a whole, although it depends on the iteration, on the adaptation.
Okay. Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire?
As Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, or maybe overall, you could depend on it.
Overall, probably Tobey Maguire's because he has a much bigger body of work.
Yeah.
But they both play the role really well. Tobey Maguire, in retrospect, it is kind of weird to watch the Raimi Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
And to think that I actually bought that he was supposed to be like 17 years old or something.
Yeah.
Whereas Tom Holland looks a lot more, they're both too old they're both older than the role, but it was funny rewatching the Raimi films because I'm like, he looks like a grown ass man.
Yeah. Sam Raimi or James Gunn?
Raimi.
Okay. Jake Gyllenhaal or Ryan Gosling?
Ooh. I'm going to go with Gyllenhaal. I think both of them have a really good filmography, but I think Jake has taken more risks.
Okay.
Particularly nowadays. Nightcrawler. Thinking back, I actually think he has done a lot of really interesting. I like Jarhead. He was really good in that one. Zodiac is obviously.
Yeah.
I'll go with Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. Millie Bobby Brown or Megan Fox?
Oh, probably Millie, just because Megan. Did I see Transformers? Yeah, I did back in the day, but I wasn't really big.
Okay.
I was like, Michael Bay is also a film. If he comes out of the film, I'm like, yeah, I'll probably see it. Michael Bay, why not?
Zack Snyder or Michael Bay?
Ooh, probably Michael Bay.
Okay.
He's had more hits, so.
Okay. who's worse, the critical drinker or Mauler?
Oh, I think Drinker. Mauler's fine. I think he just probably hangs out with like weirdos.
Yeah.
But it's more just the fact that like it's not so much that I can even judge, because I used to watch Mauler, but the problem is that a lot of those guys, they only talk about like Disney and Marvel shit, and I'm just like, I'll probably watch a Marvel movie. Like I saw Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, and they're fine. I actually like Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
But they're just not interesting to me. Like people are like, "Oh, you're going to review the Marvel movies or the new Disney?" I'm like, no, I don't care. Like if they do something interesting, sure, but they're just. I think the problem with a lot of discourse on YouTube is that people spend way too much time and give so much effort to talking about media that is not worthy of it. Like it is just like people will spend like hours talking about a fucking basic 6 out of 10 movie, which is fine. Like, you know, that's 6 out of 10 movies not bad, but like we're talking so much about there's so much discourse on this movie, which is like, if you would have asked me about it, I'd have like 10 minutes worth of stuff to say about it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's really my issue. That's sort of the divide where I'm just not interested in a lot of not to say like, oh, the mainstream stuff. It's more just like the straight up Disney, Marvel-esque, DC, all that sort of sphere of stuff.
Yeah.
I just am not really interested in it at all.
Okay. Alright. Inception or Primer?
Oh, Primer.
Okay.
But that's a biased thing. Inception's good. I think I've cooled on it over the years. I see its flaws, but when that movie came out, I was like, hell yeah, this rocks. But Primer is one of my all times.
Beyonce or Prince?
Probably Prince.
Okay. Michael Jackson or Frank Sinatra?
Probably Michael Jackson.
Okay.
I like Sinatra, but more well-versed with Jackson.
Okay. Gil Scott-Heron or Bob Dylan?
I don't even know who Gil Scott-Heron is, so I'm going to go Bob Dylan.
Okay. GTA or Last of Us?
Ooh. Probably GTA, just because they're... Last of Us Part 1 is one of my favorites, but GTA's got more consistent.
Okay. Need for Speed or Forza?
I haven't played either, but I'll say Need for Speed just because I know of it.
Okay. Cookies or cupcakes?
Cookies.
Okay. Pizza or fish and chips?
Ooh, fish and chips.
Alright. Okay. As cities, Toronto or Chicago?
Well, I live in Chicago. I've actually never been to Toronto.
Okay.
So I have to go with Chicago.
Okay. Alright, Ryan Coogler or Jordan Peele?
I'd probably go with Peele. I think his films are a bit more... I like Coogler. Sinners was great.
Yeah.
I like Fruitvale Station. Creed was good. I did see Black Panther, which is fine. It was, again, that was another film that I think... That's kind of what... That was another film that was like... so much discourse over. Like, Black Panther, like, it was fine. It was good.
Okay.
So much discourse over the years of that movie where it's like both sides. I'm like, guys, why are we giving like Sinners is like more? I think Sinners is a far more like worthy film of like this film we should be talking about. This film rules. Yeah, but I'd probably go Peele. I think his films were always very again, whether hit or miss, I think they're always a lot more interesting.
Marlon Wayans or Kevin Hart?
Marlon Wayans.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, he's in him too. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Ridley Scott or Tony Scott?
Probably Ridley.
Okay.
Tony's interesting. You know, he's had some cool stuff, but
yeah.
Ridley's a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? Hit or miss. He makes a lot of interesting stuff.
Okay. Okay. Okay, interesting. M. Night Shyamalan or the Russo brothers?
Shyamalan.
Okay.
Another example of like doesn't always make the best stuff, but always interesting. Always his.
Okay. Denzel Washington or Samuel L. Jackson?
Denzel.
Okay. Margot Robbie or Nicole Kidman?
Probably Kidman.
Okay.
Because she's been around longer, more established.
Okay. Ana de Armas or Gal Gadot?
Ana de Armas.
Okay. Okay. Tom Cruise or Jackie Chan?
Tom Cruise.
Okay. Mission Impossible or Star Wars?
Mission Impossible. I didn't really grow up with Star Wars, so it doesn't really.
Okay.
For a lot of people, it's like sort of like their their childhood and they love it. But I'm more of I have more measured take on the series. I think the saga.
Okay. Breaking Bad or Sopranos?
Sopranos.
Okay. Better Call Saul or The Wire?
Ooh, probably The Wire.
Okay. Brie Larson or Rachel Zegler?
Probably Brie Larson. I liked her in. You ever seen Short Term 12? She's really good in that, and also Room are also great movies.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Resident Evil or Tomb Raider?
Resident Evil. I'm not as big on the Tomb Raider series. I have to catch up on those.
Okay. The Last Jedi or Force Awakens?
Probably Last Jedi, just because it's more interesting. Took more swings. Had more misses, but took more swings. And Force Awakens was pretty by the numbers.
J.J. Abrams or Ryan Johnson?
Ryan Johnson. I really like the Knives Out movies, and Brick, his first film, is also really good.
Okay. Kept thinking. Ferrari or Lamborghini?
I don't know. I don't drive at all, so I don't know the difference between them really.
Okay. Okay. Clips or Mob Deep?
I know Mobb Deep. I know like a couple of their songs, but I don't really know them. But
Okay. Okay. Jay-Z or Nas?
again, I'm not really familiar with both of their stuff.
Okay. All right. Second.
Do you have a list, or are you just thinking about the top of your head?
Top of my head.
Oh.
Okay. Second. Okay. All right. Second last question. God of War or Elden Roll, whatever that name is.
Oh, Elden Ring.
Yeah, Elden Ring. Yeah.
Elden Ring. I really like the Souls games. I like them all pretty much.
All right. Last one. New York or Boston?
Oh, Boston.
Okay.
I'm from there, but also New York is.
Okay.
New York is too big. It's very. I like going there and visiting, but it's just so overwhelming.
Okay. Bonus one: Kate Beckinsale or Halle Berry?
Not Kate Beckinsale.
Okay. And second bonus one: Jared Leto or Ezra Miller?
Neither. I'll go with. That's a good way to wrap it up. Neither on those two.
All right, that's the end of the interview. Thank you for coming by and just showing out as you always do. I really appreciate this conversation. I didn't think you'll say yes to this, but I'm really glad. So yeah.
Yeah, of course, man. No worries.
Yeah. So when I do upload this interview at some point, would you mind promote it on your channel or social media or whatever?
Yeah, just let me know when it's up.
Yeah. Okay. I
don't have much social media, and I got rid of my Twitter and all that stuff. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. That is another interview, another episode of Renegade Podcast. Hope you guys enjoy. Same way I enjoyed this one. Put this one together. Bye.